The 7 deadly sins: greed, lust, envy, pride, gluttony, wrath, and sloth. There are 7 Red Dead Redemption characters in particular that perfectly exemplify these 7 deadly sins, starting with greed. Greed is the uncontrollable desire for more, especially when getting more means destroying something that mattered. Leviticus Cornwall is the perfect candidate for this. On paper, he is a captain of industry. Sugar, oil, coal, railroads, entire towns exist because he decided they should. For example, Ansburg. The men in Ansburg work in conditions that kill them for wages that do not feed their families. To him, those men aren't employees. They are a cost. His sugar comes off the island of Guarma, which is harvested with forced labor, torture, and near slavery conditions imposed on native islanders. To exploit those innocent people, Cornwall kept funding the ruthless dictator Colonel Alberto Fusa. He also had zero tolerance policy for business competition, such as sabotaging competitor oil rigs in the heartlands. But the worst thing Cornwall does in this game is forcibly displacing Native Americans when oil was suspected to be beneath Wapiti Indian Reservation. Cornwall colluded with corrupt U.S. Army officers, most notably Colonel Favors, to violate peace treaties. He bribed officials to withhold medicines supplies just for profit. Also, he hired private mercenaries as his personal army. Instead of working within the law, he directed the Pinkertons to bypass due process. However, greed got the best of Leviticus Cornwall in the end. Pride is putting your own ego above well-being of every person who depends on you. Dutch Vanderling is the definition of it. Here's why. He genuinely builds something. He surrounds himself with lost, vulnerable souls, orphans, outcasts, and molds them into followers rather than mere criminal associates. Also, questioning his tactical decisions isn't seen as a disagreement. It's considered more like a betrayal. Even though he is a charismatic leader, every disaster in the story comes from him. His plans fail repeatedly. Blackwater, Rhodes, the Saint Denis Bank heist. Every time a plan fails, Dutch does not re-examine his methods. He insists the failure was caused by a lack of loyalty or faith from those around him. His famous mantra, "I have a plan," becomes sort of a shield to defend his ego against reality. Also, Dutch just cannot accept that the world has passed his lifestyle by. To admit the Wild West is over would mean admitting his entire life's work was a delusion. Hosea and Arthur are Dutch's oldest companions. However, as they start pointing out his mistakes, Dutch interprets their concerns as doubt. His pride cannot tolerate being questioned by the two people who know him best. That's also the reason why Micah succeeds in poisoning his mind, because Micah feeds Dutch's ego. Micah calls him a king, praises his vision, and tells him exactly what he wants to hear. In chapter 6, Dutch actively manipulates Eagle Flies and the Wapiti tribe, escalating a deadly war with US Army purely to create a distraction for his own escape. His pride overrides any moral compass once he had. Even at the end, Dutch refuses to let John kill him or let the Pinkertons arrest him. Dying at another man's hand or in a cell would mean submission, instead choosing his own death on his own terms. In classical theology, wrath is far more than simple anger. It's defined as an overwhelming, uncontrolled fury. The character best embodies this tragic force is Sadie Adler. Her story does not begin with a criminal past or a desire for power. It begins with total annihilation. When O'Driscoll O'Driscolls murder her husband Jake. The quiet, peaceful rancher Sadie Adler dies in that cabin. What steps out into the snow is a widow with the deep desire for revenge. Let's have a look at Colm O'Driscoll's execution. Colm is seconds away from being hanged by the law, so justice is already being served. But for Sadie, that was not enough. She loses control and starts a shootout in broad daylight and turning a quiet undercover operation into a bloody shootout. All because she needed to feel that blood in her own hands. The problem is, innocent people and also lawmen had to die because of her actions. If we move on to another mission in chapter 6, Arturo Bullard, the balloon pilot, he was an innocent person. She endangered her life to get revenge from O'Driscolls. So as a result, an innocent person like Arturo had to die. And it did not end there. She still wanted to execute every last O'Driscoll, so she asks Arthur to help her to clear out the last O'Driscoll hideout. Even in the epilogue, the reason she becomes a ruthless bounty hunter is because violence is the only language she has left. Lust is unrestrained sexual desire, often at the cost of sacrificing something pure to satisfy it. Even though it's kind of hard to find a character who perfectly fits for this, Charles Chutney can be considered as a perfect example. A character most players might not even remember. Charles is a French painter. Arthur meets him in a bar where Charles asks him to buy a drink. Then he says the line that explains his whole character. Art is a lie. Women are the truth. Next time Arthur sees him, Charles is being dragged out of a house at gunpoint. He slept with a married woman and her husband has come to kill him. Arthur saves him. Charles says he's an artist, so he must do what he feels. He's not sorry. He thinks he did her a favor. Then comes the gallery. Charles invites Arthur to his exhibition. Every painting on the wall is a naked woman. Then the rooms start recognizing them. Those are wives painted naked in detail. One woman asks why he couldn't have painted some clothes on her. Charles tells clothes are repression and being naked is being free. And he means it. He can't understand why anyone is angry. To him, painting a woman and sleeping with a woman are the same thing, and both are gifts. In the end, he reaches South Pacific and sends Arthur a letter. Every other scene on this list destroys the person carrying it. Charles enjoyed himself the entire way through and left the damage with everybody else. Envy is a deep desire for what someone else has, but taken even further, it can become the intense urge to become them entirely. Micah Bale is the perfect example. Micah joins a gang about 6 months before the Blackwater job. He's the newest man there. Everyone else has years behind him. Arthur is Dutch's right hand, the one he listens to, and Micah can't earn it. He can't outwork Arthur. So he stops trying to earn it and start trying to take it. Watch how he talks to Arthur. He barely uses his name. It's cowpoke or sometimes black lung. It's whatever small insults he can land while other people are listening. In chapter 6, Arthur is getting weaker day by day, and Micah moves into the space that opens. Every time Arthur disagrees with Dutch, Micah is there a second later manipulating Dutch. He stands where Arthur used to stand. He gives orders to people who used to answer Arthur. He mocks him for being sick. He isn't competing with Arthur anymore. He's wearing him. Then he sells them all out for Pinkertons. Think about what that means. He burns down the gang he spent less than a year because he never wanted the gang. He wanted the position next to Dutch. That's what envy does. It can't build anything of its own. It can only take. Sloth isn't just laziness. It is the refusal to care, the avoidance of duty, and the parasitic reliance on the labor of others. We all know the perfect candidate. Uncle. Start with lumbago. He didn't stumble into that excuse. He built it. A condition nobody can see, nobody can disprove, and nobody can argue with. And when somebody calls him on it, he never denies it. Uncle puts real intelligence into avoiding work. Which brings us to the second half of this scene. Sloth can't survive alone. It needs somebody else's labor to live on. Uncle put almost nothing into the gang. He turns up with odd tips. Stealing cattle was his idea, but that's a man pointing at work, not doing it. He survived by finding hard-working people and attaching himself to them. First Dutch, then John. Look at the epilogue. John is finally trying to build something honest, and Uncle turns up uninvited and had to be physically dragged into helping build the house. Also, watch what Uncle did during the collapse of the gang. Everyone in that camp pick a side. Uncle picks nothing. He just sits there and watches it burn. Don't get me wrong, Uncle is not stupid. His wisdom is real. He just never spends it. Gluttony is defined as excessive consumption or indulgence in something taken to the point of waste. If you ask most players which character in this game best portrays this particular scene, answer might be Simon Pearson or Raven Swanson. But there's one person that fits more than those two characters. He is Bray Aberdeen, because even before you talk to that man as a player, we can see that. He's sitting on his porch, sweating through a filthy vest, breathing hard while doing nothing at all. The gluttony is already fully visible. Everything about that man is a body that has been handed over to his own appetite. He masks his horrific nature behind a wall of fake hospitality, offering food and shelter and drinks for strangers. Then Bray consumes the meal with the strangers. The way he consumes the meal is so disgusting. It doesn't stop there. He consumes the traveler's money and then the traveler. What was in that stew is never confirmed on screen, but we can all agree that wasn't just animal meat. So tell me, which character you think I got wrong? Also, if you want to know what would happen if you followed a random stagecoach in Red Dead Redemption 2 for 24 hours, it's right there on your screen. Please go watch it.